We've lost over 130,000 residents since 1960. Continued population loss. That's a smoking gun right there.
I photograph, document, and explore abandoned places. I would say cops are the biggest concern because you just don't want to get caught, and it depends on the responding officers that come over to get you, because some of them are really understanding. They don't want to do the paperwork, they don't care, so they're just like, get out of here. If I see you again, then I'm gonna give you a ticket or take you to jail, whatever. When I went exploring with Underground Birmingham at that theater, a cop actually rolled by and he just stood there looking at us. He's like, "What are y'all doing?" We're just like, taking photos of the place. He was like, "Okay, be careful," and just drove off. I see it in different certain angles, where in one angle, I see it as this is a real awe-inspiring place because a lot of people haven't seen this. They drive by, think, well, that's another abandoned building, but they don't know what's inside. Then there's also the history portion of it, where you read up on the history of these places, and a lot of them are rich with history. Birmingham was built on strictly mining, iron ore, steel. I believe what happened was that they started putting taxes and tariffs on steel and iron and stuff like that. Instead of mining here, they started outsourcing the materials from China and other places. And that's another reason why places like the Rust Belt, Gary, Indiana, Detroit have fallen on hard times because of that same reason. Birmingham was just another casualty of that.
All former U.S. Steel properties, Ansley, 600 acres, utilities I'm sure are still there, right on the rail line, right off the interstate. And you would think that would be a good candidate for some type of industrial type redevelopment project. But that is probably that's not going to happen. And then you have some industrial sites. You have, and I'm thinking about the largest ones. They are basically terrified of having those sites considered for redevelopment because they believe they're going to be on the hook for the cleanup cost. If you look at Atlantic Station, which was a former Atlantic Steel plant in Atlanta, those costs are very rarely as high as people assume they're going to be. Because you have substances in the soil that you would expect, heavy metals, et cetera, et cetera. There's money available from the EPA to clean things like that up. So I think it's just a convenient excuse not to do anything. We've lost over 130,000 residents since 1960. And so all that housing that was associated with that much larger city, population-wise, is empty because of that. And you couple that with the fact that, economically, we have our employment growth has not been as robust as some other cities. And that translates into very weak population growth or continued population loss. That's a smoking gun right there. But the opposite of what we have would be if you look at the city of Atlanta, the Beltline project, and if we had the job growth they had and a project like the Beltline, there would be a whole lot more interest in them than there is now. But we don't have that. Brownfields and grayfield projects, abandoned industrial sites, shopping center sites, gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. This price is that's the red herring remediation cost. That's not insurmountable. It's just the fact that the current owner just has no interest in any discussions about redevelopment, period.
Detroit as an example, where I see these abandoned buildings and I hear the stories and see documentaries and, read newspaper articles about the city. If you go to Detroit is actually on the up and up. It's actually really nice now. They're taking the steps to actually better the community and better the city. Whereas I look at Birmingham and I think we have all these abandoned buildings and they are just caring about downtown Birmingham, and downtown is what people come to see, but they don't care about the people living around downtown.
You have redevelopment going on downtown and in some of the close-in neighborhoods, but you go the further out you go, the less interest there is in redeveloping potential sites.
The first abandoned place I explored in Birmingham was, I believe, in 2012, and it was the Lear Tower, the old Thomas Jefferson Hotel that's now TJ Tower. That was easy because at the time the realtor was doing free promoting, and that he would allow photographers to come in. All they got to do is ask him for permission, and he knew that they were going to post photos online, and he doesn't have to pay an actual photographer to take photos of the inside. We just went over there, asked him for permission. He gave us the key, and we spent maybe 8-9 hours in there. The old Piz department store, it was maybe like 2 or 3 blocks down the street from TJ Tower. It maybe 3-4 stories high, had its own attached parking garage. With that, I just had a friend who went there, and he had jerry-rigged the lock for us, where he had stuck a stick through it to make it look like it was locked, but when you pull the stick out, the lock just falls apart. Caraway, I'm pretty sure they're getting ready to either implode or demolish Caraway. Yeah, it is blown out. And there is just nothing. When we went 4 or 5 months ago, maybe half a year ago, there was actually a pair of, I guess, demolition or construction that have hard hats and orange vests.
I think that property has been appropriately rezoned, and that's, the developer seems to be pretty excited about the project, and it's close to downtown, so I give it a 70% chance of actually coming to fruition.
Physicians Medical Center Caraway falls deeper into disrepair.
Happening today, Birmingham City Councilors want to hear your ideas for the old Caraway Hospital campus.
Neighbors in Druid Hills have heard plans in the past for new development on the site of the former decaying Caraway Hospital, but so far, those promises have yielded nothing.
Good morning. The city of Birmingham just released some renderings for this development. It's called the North Side Park, and the development here would completely transform this old Caraway Hospital.
You're looking at the shattered skeleton of Caraway Hospital.
It's just a daily, constant reminder that nobody cares.
The former Caraway Hospital is not wearing its decade of vacancy well.
With today's rezoning vote out of the way, Corporate Realty says it plans to buy the 48 acres by the end of the year. And while many of these buildings will likely be torn down, the developer pledges to preserve the hospital's infamous Blue Star.
Instead of saying, okay, that was the past, we're going to make steps to move toward the future, they don't want that. They want to stay in the past. They want to say, this is how it used to be. These are good old days. I want it to be like this. But it's not like that. You have to adapt and change your views, and that's the only way you can progress. And moving over here to Alabama, there's not a lot of progression going on.
Since the city created its land banks, it has been underfunded from the very beginning. That has limited what the land bank authority has been able to do. And we really don't have like a lot of other cities, they turn their land bank authorities into basically a redevelopment authority. And Birmingham has opted not to do that. So just any redevelopment that happens is pretty much piecemeal, and we've been very hesitant about creating entities like that, an entity like that, which could really actually do a lot of good in a lot of these neighborhoods. We shied away from that for 40 years now. There's another hospital, it's the former Holy Family Hospital in Inslee, and you can see it right off the interstate before you get off the Inslee Avenue exit, and that's where I was actually born in '61. If that were in another location in another city, some senior housing developer would have snapped that up and made it it'd be senior housing by now. But that's probably not going to happen here. It's just going to sit there along with the old Inslee Steelworks site indefinitely, until it just falls in, and the city is forced to condemn it and demolish it. I guess if I had the wherewithal, I would just buy it myself. Just about every revitalization study that has been developed for the city over the past 40 years has recommended a redevelopment authority, and it has never been implemented. It has never been pursued. And so one has to, I guess, come to the conclusion that the city does not want to do that. And I can speculate as to why that is, but I won't. No, it's just that they just rather not bother. It's not they won't even let you broach the subject. They're just not interested in paying anything at all to clean the sites up. I think the main problem in Birmingham is that there's not a demand for those properties because our redevelopment activity is just not widespread enough. The interest in the city as a whole is not what it should be.